that you do, but that's not enough. You have also to know how to communicate it now to those who actually maybe you had in mind when you are doing your science work, and that determines now if anything, any change that you want to do your work to influence, it will happen. Is how you take it out there. So I just want to bring that one up. And I need to have my watch here so that because I love to talk too much. So I have to make sure I monitor my time. So we have 4 learning objectives that we're gonna try to get today. The first one is for you by the end of this like an hour and 45 minutes, you are able to recognize how important is to do science communication effective and to think through different audiences and purposes. Um, and also to be able to translate, because most of the work that we do is very complex sometimes, or it's very technical. So there is a need for you to take it smoother for someone, depends on the audience. So if we're able to translate this research findings into something simple and clear and is accessible to people that you are intending to reach, and this could be your policymakers, could be the community, could be a member of public, but you have to maintain that scientific accuracy that you had in your technical side of things. But also a very high level to learn things, some strategies that they are much more brain friendly, that will help you to improve your audience to engage with you as you are doing your communication, and also to enhance how you comprehend your messages. And if time allows, we'll try also to give a very high level structured workflow on how you can plan or draft a scientific manuscript. So let's go into this. All right. So this is a very quick outline of what we're going to cover. So as long as we don't have announcements, it means we have our 4 minutes at the beginning. So we'll take you through the science, writing, and communication, like why you have to do that, communication and different audiences, and what you should consider, very high level tips, but also a few tips on how you do that. Then there'll be the exercise, and all the exercise will be facilitated by Harriet. And you take your healthy break, 5 minutes, and you'll come back and finish the last bit of how you move from now a research to a manuscript, and some good practices. We'll go through those. And then there'll be a last exercise that you will try also to make you be hands-on a little bit before we close at the end. So if you see that there is anything that Harriet is monitoring the chat, so there is any issue you don't hear, you don't listen, something's happening, you don't see a slide, just send a message in the chat, and Harriet will actually stop me or alert me. All right. So let's go to this. This first, we brought out your cast, and a few, okay, and a few things that we see here. For example, for the people with the question that you can develop a structured outline before you start drafting your writing. We see lots of green that they can do things independently. So 70%, that is like 2 people maybe in the team of 6. And we have a few reds, 16.7. Someone that needs some help, and it's good that it's just some help. And you have 50% that they get a guidance, they can actually go for it. The same for the how to plan, draft, and revise work. Somehow you can see almost 66%. They can say they get a guide, they can go for it. And you have a very one person who can do independently, which is great. And I think one person will need somebody to help, which is okay. Then I go to the last one first. I reserve the overwhelming part on purpose. If you can simply simplify a complex information from science without losing accuracy, all of you, if you get guidance, you can do that. Excellent. So they have less work to do. I'm happy to see the scientific writing is overwhelming. 50% of you will disagree. This is very good that it's not overwhelming. At least you don't see your work that is too much work. And some, yeah, 33% they said they agree this is overwhelming. So I think there is no wrong or right answer here. Depends on what is happening in your world. Writing can be overwhelming. If you have a lot on your plate, you still have to do writing. But sometimes it can also be in the 50. So it depends. So we'll see. And I think from here is where you start your also to see how this comes to the real life world. So that's from your class. And see if we're gonna change that in the next few minutes. So I started talking about why communicate by using this publication. And this is the work that the MAP group, the Malaria Trust Project group, published early this year. Very, very impactful journal. It's Nature. And for those of you know, scientific journals, Nature is one of the top niche. And it's the work that was done in-house trying to project the impact of climate change on malaria in African continent. So we are very, very happy. It's a very high milestone. So we are very happy. We celebrate. And yeah, so we want to make sure that everybody hears about our work. And if for those of you interested, you can go and read this paper later. It's a very interesting paper, actually. I'll advise everyone to read it. So now, but now in your mind, we have so many people that this may interest, like the public, because people they want to understand, because people that the public is the one who is affected by malaria and where they live. So it's good, and the climate change is a natural, it's a biological thing, so it just happens there. So it's good that they know these people how this impacts like looks like. But also we have the scientists, this information is good for people who are doing a lot of other work because they can use this for their own scientific work, they can use it for communicating to other groups. There's so many usefulness for the people who are actually doing science and they are doing research. But we also have people who they give money. Because there are a lot of calls. If you go now and Google calls on climate change, you'll see a lot of funders giving money people to understand impact of climate change on different things. So this could be somewhere someone to start. So the funder can look at this and like, oh, this is happening for malaria. Can I give someone money to do this for another disease? So there is a lot of people, and I didn't even list everybody here, but there will be a couple of others that they are also interested in this information will be very useful. So as a scientist, you sit there now. So it could be anyone from this team that can be approached to talk to any of these groups. So you need to sort out how do I do now? How do I communicate to scientists, public, vendors? What should I use to be able to talk to this so that they understand and to be able to understand to make sure that your message is cutting across. So what is happening actually? There is this world, this is the world that we live. We have research work that we do a lot of good work, but most of it doesn't really suffice. People will do reports, we do work with them, we write reports, we develop models, we do analysis, there are a lot of methodologies, there are a lot of data. People who are coming from the countries, they can say that we have a lot of data that is there that can be used for different analytics, that can generate different reports. But also we write scientific papers, but it's only that if you are able to communicate, that it will bring it up to those that we want them to use it. So this iceberg that you see on top, decision makers, they sit on top there, communities, they sit on top there, funders, they sit on top there. So they won't able to see all these million data points that you have, or the complicated methodology that you developed, or the pipeline. They don't want that. They just see a little bit of the big work that you have done. So it means that knowledge action gap is where the effective communication is trying to bridge. And that is not a simple work to do. So you need to pay your attention if you are trying to bridge from all the massiveness of work that you do. For example, I know guys from DRC, you have been extracting data from PMI reports. There's so much that you have extracted there, but you just want to make it 3 bullets to talk to the program. They cannot go to this data and look at it, but it's too much work. but you need now to extract that little bit, the tip of that. So this is the gap that we are trying to approach in this seminar. So this is the kind of a busy slide, and I tried myself not to put a lot of animation. I'll try to take you through. So what is the value first of why you communicate? You want to inform someone on something. But sometimes you want to use your communication to educate someone. It's not just telling them this and then you go off. You want them to learn from what you are telling them. But sometimes you want to influence, you want someone to take that and start the conversation. So you are influencing people to maybe to change behavior or to ask a question by communicating what you have. But sometimes it's about engaging, because there is something that is happening in the community, or something is happening in the malaria program meeting, and you want people to engage so that you can go deep and understand. Maybe there's a result from maybe the burden of a disease has gone very high, or then you want to engage them to the conversation so that you bring out of what they know for you to maybe to do something further. So it means you have to give them something that will stimulate them to understand, to be able to be part of the conversation. But sometimes it's direct. You want to send a message that can inspire action. Someone can immediately act. So there's a lot of values, but I just selected a few of them, which I think they are sufficient for this course as an introduction. So there are so many principles, if you look on literature, how you can do effective communication. But I just put the words one, like A-E-I-O-U. And this they cut across 5 things. First, you want to make sure that if you want it to be effective, you have to grasp people's attention. It will speak about how do you get their attention, to attract that attention so that they can listen to you. But also, the engagement of that audience depends on which audience that you're going to look at. It has to make sure that you have the right audience, the right method, so that they feel that, oh, this is for us. It's not something that is too difficult or too technical, or it's too simple. So make sure that it actually focus to what they need so that they can engage. And the interest is that to make sure that they capture their interest. So it's not about their attention, but you have to understand them when you speak about that, so that you know that, these people, I need to make it this way, so that can inspire what actually they are looking for. But all those 3, they also go that you have to make sure that you shape that opinion. Because sometimes when you are writing and you are giving some communication, you are given an opinion. Sometimes you don't even have the facts, but it's an opinion that comes from research, but it's actually coming through evidence. So it's good that whatever that you give them is going to shape also how they look at things, and that it becomes more effective. But it also make sure that if it's going to be effective, it's going to build the understanding. So you can see the value that you put, for example, education, by educating people, is also to build the understanding of people on something. And if you don't do it effective, I try to put here few groups that we look at the beginning. What is the cost of you not doing it well? For example, if you look at the funding group, people that they give us money, you may just lose funding. And we are living in the world that now we really have to be careful about our funding portfolios. We protect it. So make sure that you present something that is actually has the good value, so that people who are giving you money, they don't lose the trust on you, on the way that you do. If you talk to the policymakers, and policymakers can be anybody, can be a member of the parliament, it can be someone, a head of the big department, can be a minister. If you communicate it wrongly or not well, you may actually give them a bad evidence, which they need, maybe because they didn't understand it, the way you presented it, and that could actually cause for them to misguide them. So you can make a policy on something that maybe they missed it, and they make a poor policy. And the time you come to realize, it's like it started from you giving them some information that were actually very bad packaging. So it means you have to be careful about also that group. But if you come to the public, it's even more dangerous. So these are the people that they They want simplified languages. They want to make sure everything is kind of actually it's already digested to their level. They need to be protected. So it means if you give them something that is not actually well communicated, they may not understand, and they may get a completely different direction. And you can see the danger of that. It's actually going to affect the entire system if your community is not maybe protected by the information that you're supposed to give them. You're supposed to give information for them to be protected. So all these groups, there is a cost if you don't communicate your information very well. So summarizing is like the science, you create that knowledge. Then you move now to the communication where you translate that for someone to use it to make a decision. You build that trust. Then you are trying to accelerate, like you are making it to happen faster now. The impact, and if you are lucky, it means you will get some changes from how you communicated it, this information that came through. So there are two things that I want to make sure that you see the difference now, so that we don't get confused. It's writing and communicating. But they are kind of like intertwined sometimes, and there's a kind of a line between them, and sometimes it's also kind of like putting a line in between when you're talking to a scientific and a non-scientific like groups of communication. But I just want to see the difference between the two, and sometimes it's very easy for you to decide, like, am I communicating now, am I be writing? But let me see. But we can, if you have a different opinion, you can also chat. So I see things like writing a manuscript. A manuscript is like you have done some work, you write something, it's very structured. You look at some of the examples at the end. This is more of scientific writing, because it can be a document of like 400 pages. We have marked here paper that together with the supplementary material, they can go up to 400 pages. But it also, the main manuscript can have 5,000 words. So that's actually more of the writing, because you put a lot of details. But also, for those who are working in the ministries, we write, we do work, and we produce technical reports. And these technical reports also, they put a lot of details. Everything that happened for you to deliver that work goes into these technical reports. And this is also scientific writing, because you can see it needs a lot of depth in how we're putting it. Those who have done their masters, I think most all of you here, or PhDs, thesis, that's scientific writing. And you can see some theses you have seen, they have like 250 pages. People, they just put documents. It has a lot of chapters, introduction, conclusion. That's scientific writing. Sometimes some of the manuscripts, they get published. So they go to journal articles, they become articles. You can write a manuscript, without they go to the journal, you can just put it online. But if you go to publish, that's still a scientific article. You can see a structure, and sometimes it needs more information. Sometimes we go on to meetings and conferences, and you'll be invited. Maybe you've done a very good talk. They will ask you to write a conference paper. So it's like it's between manuscript and the journal article, but it will tailor to the conference objective. So I put those things are more in scientific writing. When I come to communication, you can see the things that I have here, they're much more smaller than what we had. Conference presentation. I believe I'm going to ask a few questions later. Presentation, if it's an oral or a poster, you can see this is going to make one poster, just one poster, and you have to say all your message there. That could come from a full article that had maybe 11 pages, and they just want you to write it in a one poster, and they give you these strictly dimensions for you to put. So that's the communication direction of writing, of science. But people who are done some scientific and they want to connect to the decision maker, we build what we call policy briefs. And these are also some examples that you have summarized episodes to a 2-page. A big message, but you want now to guide people to change the policy or some guidance that maybe the government needs. And we have, you people are doing data science, so you know a lot. And info. Okay, I'll come to that. journal paper and conference paper. Okay. So infographics, you guys, you know, you are good in that. I don't need to speak about that. And that could be a video that just brings a lot of information in one image. And then also, as we are moving into science, you'll be now attracting media people. And sometimes we are calling an interview of media, which that would take you only 3 minutes, and they want you to talk, and you have to deliver that message there. But now we also have social media, and you can see social media, you have, I'm sure all of you have some handles. I can find you everywhere. There you don't write, you don't just throw the manuscript there or the paper. You write something small, and the message has to be informative, and that's the communication trick, so that people they can read it, get the message, and you get a lot of followers or thumbs. But also there is another part of the community engagement. So there was a question about journal, no, conference paper and journal article, right? So usually, the conference papers, they come from the time you are, it's coming from the conference, so conference committee. So you're invited there, this you went, you gave a talk. Then they see your work and they can say, oh, this one, I think is a good one. Can you expand it to like 5 pages? So you expand that way that you discuss for like 10 minutes to like in a writing. So usually, most of them, they don't go to the journals, like the journal like Nature, Malaria Journal, PLOS, they are not there. They will publish it under, let's say, under the portfolio of that conference organizers. For example, if you take the agency one that you guys just went a few weeks ago, the annual Johnson conference, if they ask you to write a conference paper, it may be published under the NIMBY website as a conference. Then it will actually link to the themes of that conference, and then this was presented and it was nice and it was asked to be expanded. So you can do that one, then later still publish in a journal. So usually they are not having like impact factors. It's more informative, but it's expansion of like a talk or a poster. Yeah. So you may not get some credits if you just publish on conference papers, because they don't get points sometimes. Yeah, though there are some very big conferences, for example, the American Society of Tropical and Hygiene, they also invite sometimes conference papers, and they have also a journal under the conference, because that conference is like an NGO now. So it can end at the conference paper, but it can also be going to their journal, the SMH journal. So there it gets points now, it gets cited, it gets impact factor, etc. So it's just a, so and even sometimes conference papers, they are not peer reviewed. Maybe sometimes the scientific committee of the conference will be the one reading it and give it back and then publishing it. So the scrutiny of the article and the journal and the conference paper is a little bit, journal is more higher. You may get 5 reviewers reviewing your work, you come back and with your questions. This conference paper, they are much simple. They will give you a little bit easy, like, okay, it's expanded to your work, just expand it for us, and we can publish in this specific portfolio. Yeah. So it's a good one sometimes if you don't want to struggle with editors and journals. So I have a question for you guys, and I need just you to have your computers in your clicks. How many of you have published a paper? Can you thumbs up? And I'll count to the thumbs up. Published a paper or been part of the publication. Then you are okay, and you are not just been added there. You did some work. 2, I want to see thumbs. I just saw 2. And I saw, oh, okay, I go, okay. Okay. How many of you have presented in a scientific conference? The oral poster, anything? Okay. Good. No? Only those 2? Okay. How many of you have written a policy brief? Okay, Breeze. Monica. Okay, the numbers are getting less. Are you there? Okay, so let's start the first one. How many have explained your research to your grandmother? That was. I love that you are listening. I think at the end, when you get time, let them tell you how they explain this to their grandmother. What they are doing. Every day they go to the office, but what are they doing? Sit with their grandmother. So, interesting. That's good. So, what you can say, ideally, all of these things, none of them is better than another. It's only that what is the importance to know there, you're saving a different audience. For those who have spoke to their grandmother, I remember I can see how much trouble they had. But it's a different, your grandma is a different audience. So you need to simplify your way. You can even mix with your local language for them to understand. And the purpose was different. It was just to make your grandma to be excited with the work that you do. When you are writing a paper, it's a completely different audience you have in mind. You don't have your grandma there. You know, my grandma won't get to the malaria children reading my paper. So you have different people in your head that you are writing for. And the purpose is also different. So you put things that you know, the people that I'm thinking of, is they will get this message. So for those who clicked the first one and the last one, that's what you're trying to now navigate now in science communication. You have to change your swing. Like now I'm talking to mom. She can't understand it. Oh, what is the grandma cannot understand alteration. So I can't say alteration to my grandma. So they have to be like, what language is that? They don't even know if it's English. Odds and the ratio. Okay. So ideally, in both, whether you're doing science communication or doing science writing, the audience determines the message. So, and the message, it determines the medium that you're going to use. So once you know that, you start with my people, you think, this I'm going to start this message this way. Then after that, you think, how can I deliver? What's the vehicle now to take this message to this audience? So that's kind of a journey. But always, you have to select the most appropriate product, whether it's a manuscript or policy brief or a conference presentation, even anything based on that audience and purpose. If you're talking to if you Kaiser, you are talking to Arsenal, you know each other. So there's a way you talk. If you're talking to the National Malaria Control Program Manager, you find your words carefully. Because otherwise you speak about things and you'll be like, I don't understand. You go to the minister, you know, this minister can give you just an elevator thing. Like I'm going up now, level 7, can you come in? And I need you to tell me what you are trying to tell me. By the time they get there, they get in another meeting, you don't want them to forget. You have to make sure that they have understood. If you're talking to a donor, completely different. Donor, they want to see that, you are investable, can give you my money. Community, this is the grandma story. It's part of the community. Again, journalists, for those who may not get able to get to that, but journalists is a completely different world. You use your words so careful, otherwise they can take you, you're talking about mangoes, before you know it, by the end of the conversation, you're talking about bananas. Because for them, they came with, and you didn't package yourself very carefully, they'll just swing you. Because for them, they want to sell. And you know, what's the purpose of this? These people, I need to understand them. So let's look at these things. Okay. So, there was a very quick class exercise, 1 minute. Okay, let's go. So, I have this slide. I want you to use 1 minute and look at this slide. So, this person was trying to present something. I went, I did some work, I analyzed it, it's not published yet. So it's me, Romisha, I told, very proud. The result of Bayesian analytical modeling. I want to identify spatial temporal drivers associated with malaria transmission in Africa. So I put my background, I put my key findings, talking about how statistical significance I got, intervention coverage that I want to see, and I put some findings on integrated approaches to combine surveillance. Then I put a table there, a few selected tables. I wanted to put everything, but it was not enough. So I selected a few, Ghana, Chad, Uganda, and I put the prevalence there, I put rainfall, a lot of things. Population, I don't even know what the K means, but I just put there. Then I thought, oh, there is a map, that they can see a map of something. Prevalence is somewhere between 1975 and 79. Maybe they know the history. Put it there in the slide. Then I put another map. I mentioned population. Let's put this map that shows how people are distributed. So now, 1 minute. Can you list on the chart 5 reasons why do you think this slide is ineffective? I know it's ineffective. That's what I'm saying. But why? Type on chart. Why do you think this is very effective slide? Okay, I leave it there. Now I'm looking at how the charts come. 1 minute. Can you time it? Type anything that you think this slide needs to be actually completely crushed. Okay. Type. Okay, see, I wrote very good English. Long statement from the clear message. The message is here, result of the model. Okay, I'm here, I'm defending myself because it's my slide. Not the complex concepts. Okay. Method not clear. Okay, you wanted the method. Okay, we'll try next time. Title is too, is that too long? I thought you don't understand everything. These maps are too small. You can't see the colors. Oh, okay. So, sure, a lot of things. Badly organized. No, the maps are too small, too much information. You're all right. So, let's now see what you did that. So, if I'm talking to scientists, I'll come back to that exercise. I just want to leave it so that you don't sleep. What do you think? I'm going to throw this one. You want to communicate to someone. We're still writing in French, then we bring in English now. So you want to write a good story, make sure that someone understands. If you're using slides, they have to be pretty. So that at least those who are looking at it, they can be tricked to look at it. Otherwise, they're like, this one, too much word. I was just in a conference 2 weeks a week ago, and I passed through posters. And I stop when I see that it's easy to read and pretty. If I see too much word, I'm like, first is too much biology. Then all these words I need to read. No chance. I pass. So those guys, maybe the story is too nice, but I missed because it was not tricking me to go. Yeah. So even if you're writing an article, it should be nice, easy sentences, right? Thumbs up if you're okay with that. Are you thinking that it should be easy? Yeah. Nice, easy to read, pretty, the statements are clear. Yeah. So definitely, it has to be. Otherwise, nobody's going to look at that. So let's see how we can do that. I'm checking time. No, I'm checking time. This one is okay. Okay, so first, quick one, you have to know your audience. This one is the first thing that you are trying to do communication. Make sure that you're going to get to this slide, so I'm going to pass very quickly, just the key information. Make sure you know their interests, what are they motivating. We are working in across countries, across people with different backgrounds. culture of people has to be in your head. What are this culture of these people? We can have it in a coffee chat later. What is our experiences we have about crossing between cultures and how that changes how you speak to people. But make sure that at least you know the level of understanding is similar. Don't put a professor and a very, very, very normal community person on the same communication kind of like meeting, because you may actually struggle to communicate to both. Then you tailor your message in such a way that you focus on the core message, you speak about the language. You can use an analogy if you are good in making like a good story, so that you compare something to something connected to what they do. And if, for example, avoid using very difficult jargons. And there are people that they like these very difficult terms to use into their messages. If it doesn't cross their minds, it won't be actually captured. But also, make sure that you are honest about your message. If there is anything that is not good in your message, particularly for analytics, this is a problem that we have. Make sure that you speak about that. My method here, I did some work, and there is this problem. So talk about the problem. And if you have anything about your concluding, don't talk too much. You are emphasizing your it's like, oh, this one. You're overstating this conclusion. They may actually you may get some ready flags. Like, why are you speaking too much about this conclusion? Just try to be communicative, very clear. If there are issues, any bias, any limitation, but don't repeat over time so that people they don't feel like there's something going on there. But another one that I thought I should share with you is use your visuals. And I just put you people you do analytics, so you know about visuals. But they tell you a very good story. Easier, reduced number of words. Sometimes it's much easier for someone to see. But make sure that it also has a story. If you're talking, for example, before and after some analysis, if there are steps, make sure that someone can follow those steps. And you could see some examples, and I know that we can have some examples later. You have everything in one image. So don't do that. Even if maybe the journal wants you just to have one post, one image, one map. If let's say it's a poster and they send only one figure, don't try to put everything now into that one figure, because otherwise people they will miss the message. But also make sure that you have consistency in how you choose your color, your layout. They are simple, but someone can just be put off because you had very weird labels and they won't go for it. So simplify, clarity, simplicity. Make sure if you have a lot of numbers, make them at minimum in the visuals, and make sure that you have captions. And I have an example here of one of the work that for the paper that I shared with you. This is the post, one of the image or figure that we had in the paper that I showed. And it just showing two things, like how changes of clinical cases by different factors. And the caption it has like a full paragraph. So the title is just projected cumulative impact on clinical malaria incidence between this time. But all these texts had to go in there for someone for this figure to be able to stand alone and defend itself. So sometimes that's why we force you to have title and caption, and so that the visual is clear, so someone can follow there and understand everything. And if you go to the paper, you'll see a couple of examples on that. So just two figures, because we know that it's a complex figure for someone to understand. So you just put a lot of caption for someone. So maybe I should stop now for you to do the exercise. Then I can connect, but I'm trying to see so I can split the time half. Before I can go to this one. No? Or you're okay if I finish this? Okay. So here I just summarize things that they are much more friendly brain. For example, I put on the slide here some examples on how you can use stories to speak about science. And I put a few podcasts. Some of them are very malaria focused, like the Malaria World Organization guys. These guys, they publish papers, but they have a blog where they also put podcasts. Beautiful one. They call Malaria Minute. It's just 1 minute, and someone will give a message. But even the funder that gives some good, a lot of researchers money, the Gates Foundation, they have also podcasts. And for example, they have one they call Make Me Care About Malaria. And people, they speak. So it's the same. It's the same like writing a paper, but now it's like summarizing a story. And it's very interesting to read it, but you can see how they choose their words so carefully. So I'll ask you later to go to those websites and really look at some of the examples on how this episode is structured. Some are very short, some are long, but they want to communicate a message using a story. Visuals, I just put one example for an infographic. This is one of the work that I did long time ago. And we wanted to talk about what diseases are killing people in Tanzania. And we wanted to go to the minister. So we just created a small postcard and gave to the minister to move around with that card. And we put the cycles, which disease kills more people, and also which one kills less, and what is the proportion. And from there, as he's moving, he just saw the card and he can see. And immediately the message was actually delivered very easily than him reading a summary of that, which was like 5 pages. Then if you want interesting things, you can call him later. But that was already a card that was very useful. But you can also use maps and charts. And also, sometimes use very plain language. For example, make sure that I've talked about this short statements, and we'll look at some of, we'll ask you to do some exercise later. Short sentences, because in plain languages, but that helps you to communicate. And at the end, we'll do another exercise with 1 sentence test. So you say something as a finding or methodology, start to prepare your mind in one clear sentence, 1 sentence. We're going to do that at the end. So I'm going to stop here and let Harriet to do the first exercise, then we'll proceed. Over to you.
Hi everyone. So we will stop screen sharing.
Yeah, then you can use yours.
So we're going to do a little exercise here to try and practice what it is that we have been learning for the past about 45 minutes. And our exercise, we're going to be using Google Docs to put our responses. So I'm putting the link in the chat. Please access the link in the chat. And perhaps now we are going to divide into 3 groups. And in your groups, you're going to, so the variables that we're going to be working on have been already predefined. And because they've been predefined, it means that we're only going to be basing on our groups that we've been assigned to. We are going to either select both the audience identified as well as the variable that we're going to be discussing, and we are going to interpret the findings of this study in that context and try to tailor it to the audience that we have identified. So we're going to do that for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and try to discuss what you guys have come up with. Note that the maximum number of sentences that you can write here is 3 sentences, and think about it when you're speaking, it should fit within maybe a 90-minute time limit. So please access the link in the chat, and then from your breakout rooms, you're going to discuss that, and then you'll put the responses in this table. Thank you.
Okay, that is okay. Let's see. Okay. So you have to put us, oh, they have 6.
Neema. Neema, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Monica.
Are we still in breakout rooms? My laptop went off. And
Oh, let me add you back into yours.
Okay, so we have the variable that we are working.
Let me go to row 3. Okay. Oh,
Hi everyone, are we all back? Yeah. So thank you so much for, I can see that some of you are still completing are still tailoring your message to your audience. But maybe if we could just start with maybe group 2. I see that you guys have finished typing. Maybe you can tell us what you found in the findings and how you decided to tailor your message to your audience, for which yours was a policymaker. Can you please explain to us? Any member of group 2? And your variable of interest was utilization of ITN.
Hi. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So for our team, we are group number 2, we are checking the utilization of ITN, and we are tailoring the message to the policymaker.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So in our case, we said not using ITN is linked to higher malaria prevalence based on we saw the correlation was, I think it was 4, and the AOR was 5, greater than 1. So we didn't intend to speak these figures to the policymaker because some of them might not be technically competent in the domain. So based on this, now the NMCP should prioritize the net coverage and consider maybe frequent distribution of nets and consider insecticide resistance to ensure effectiveness of nets. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you, Kaiser. We can now hear from group 3.
Hear all of them, then they can challenge each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone from group 3? Monica?
Sorry, we were not finished, but okay, so there's a team member who was writing. I'm not sure whether she wanted to finish her thought there.
Maybe you can just tell us a bit of what was your selection criteria for how you tailor this message, given that you had a general scientist, so it's not someone who is completely sort of naive to the science.
Okay, so we were thinking for the variable on knowledge on transmission, prevention, and control of malaria, we would share this in terms of percentage. Just mention to them that about 34% of the cases did not have knowledge on transmission, prevention, and control of malaria, while 80% of the controls had knowledge on transmission, prevention, and control of malaria. And then maybe mention on the statistical significance at the end of this finding. Thinking a general scientist would be able to understand that over a 90-second conversation.
Okay, and
So how about with that message? Well, that is not typed yet.
the message is not,
The last part.
the last part is not yet typed.
Okay.
About the significance, what was significant. Group 1.
We try to look at the presence of intermittent rivers within 1 kilometer and how it is associated with malaria. So, considering a journalist, we do not know whether the person has a background scientific background about how malaria is transmitted and the implication of this. So we just quickly do a brief introduction that mosquitoes which transmit malaria breed in water bodies. And the current study show that people living in areas with intermittent rivers within 1 kilometer, we try to consider the odd ratio and we try to translate it to what people we understand at every day, because as a journalist is going to actually disseminate this information to the people at the end of the day at community level. So we try to look for a way to just coin it instead of going with the odd ratio, the confidence interval, and the like, to just say that okay, there are five that people living in such area are 5 times more likely to have malaria compared to people who do not. That we felt that message is a bit clear and direct for people to just understand what we are trying to say. So that was what we were able to do.
Okay, thank you so much. That was quite, I think it was quite also easy to understand how you have tailored it and also not lost the quantification bit, which I think maybe group 2 and group 3, that was something that was missing in your responses to be able to quantify, because descriptions of that effect, most of them are known. However, I think part of the significance also of this work was to add that quantification, because when you say that someone is at 5 times more risk, then it means that that quantification is important, because it also sort of like adds weight to the message that you're trying to send. If someone was maybe 1.5 times likely, it's not the same as when someone is maybe 10 times likely. So it's important to not lose the entire message just because you're trying to simplify your message. So thank you so much. I think you had a hand.
Yeah, I had a hand. Well, thanks so much for that feedback. But I want to ask group 3 to comment on the second part of group 2. They said NMCP should maintain high coverage, focusing on replacement and monitor insecticide resistance. What do you think about that additional message that the group 2 they send to this member of parliament? Any comment on that part that you highlighted from group 2? What do you think? If you don't say, I'm gonna pick a person. Someone to comment on that from group 2? Do you agree with that message to be added there as part of the interpretation from the results that we provided? Or do you disagree? Do you have any thoughts? Anyone from group 2, please. Open up your mic and say, comment. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Someone.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Let's say,
personally do not totally agree with that statement.
why?
Because from the results, the result is not explicitly saying that if the coverage is maintained, and it's not so not talking about we don't have anywhere in the result where it's talking about insecticide resistance management. So, and that alone is communicating something that the result is not actually saying.
Thank you so much. I think that's a good comment. And before I give my summary also thoughts, I want to ask someone from group 1 to comment now on group number 3. Group number 3, now you are done. Eh? You are not keeping typing.
No, yeah.
Now you are done. Okay, group one. Someone from group one need to say anything to about the second statement about the result showed that only 44% of malaria cases had knowledge, or anything else on that. From group one, I can't remember you. You know each other, so you can say that. Any comment on that? What do you think about this message? And it goes to a scientist. Anyone? Please raise your hand. Who's that? I can pick now. Where is Annabelle? Annabelle, were you in group? Which group were you?
First.
Group number one, right?
Yes, he's in group number 1.
Okay, Annabelle, please open your mic and I want you to comment on what is written to the scientist from group number 3. Annabelle, are you there? Oh, the AI. Annabelle, are you there?
I think she.
Okay,
She's there.
let me check another. Wait, who else was in group number 1?
Asin.
Hassan.
Yes.
Hassan, okay, Hassan, say, comment on the message to the scientist. This is, you are a scientist, then they wrote to you this from these results. Any comment?
So I think now any comment, I'm just trying to understand what this is, but really I can't
Oh.
comment now. Yeah.
Can I say
Yeah.
something here too?
Who is that? Who want to say
Oh,
something?
yes, I want to say something here too. I think for this statement to be clear enough, we could have had a kind of comparison between those who had malaria cases and those who didn't. So with that, it will be very clear to see how much of them have knowledge about malaria at the end of the day in the first place. That's just my observation.
Yes, I agree. I think I also agree with that. Let me choose another person that is also here. Christina Miala, you are are you in the call? Or is just your name there? Okay, Christina is not responding. I want this one to be faster. The other ones have dropped. I saw Lebris is gone. Anyway, so I think you have started to build these messages. Okay. Okay. But you can put your Victoria can put any comment that you think one of the group that you are not part of, you have a thought, even if that you can't do. Okay. That's okay, Christine. So what I want to say here, that you have the results, and once you have the results of the analysis work, immediately remember that somebody did a lot of work. So that I said in the beginning, the science have brought the knowledge now. So immediately, what the knowledge that you have, make sure that you keep yourself in the boundaries of the knowledge that you have. I know the message about replacement of net, monitor insecticide, about other effectiveness of the vector control. They are all good, and this policymaker will be very happy. But I think I already have said it. First, you have a quantification there, and that's why there was a research work that was done. So find a way to make this number, this thing for him to say that out of 5 people, like 10 will actually, out of 10, 5 will do this. Out of 5, 2 will do this. Then that sticks with them because they see the quantification. So you have to find a methodology that you're removing jargons, yes, you don't give them odds ratio, but you give them something that they remember numbers more than weights. Yeah. And as Adele said, yeah, don't say things that were not there. Because immediately they start asking you a question about what was the effect of insectile resistance, you don't have answers because you didn't analyze those. So try to put your message from what you have already. So you remove speculations. But the same coming to the general scientist. So I know that you went and you used the statistics, the numbers that come from the top percent of malaria cases that have knowledge. I think you went and started to do some calculation there, which is good because you did some work to make things easier. But this is a scientist. The scientists should understand more into the analysis that went into. All the time, remember the iceberg that I showed you. There's a lot of work that already happened, and don't throw that in the bin. People they went, they thought of a model, they thought of analytical, they made odds ratio that are not adjusted, and some they adjusted. So there's a work that went in. So make sure that you try to capture something instead of going back again to the descriptive of the numbers. Yeah. Okay, Victor is saying that you went too fast and writing speculations. So, but I think there you see, as you said, it's not an easy thing to do, but it will give you very little time, but at least you're starting to get the points. Keep the boundaries to what you have. Try, if you have quantification, pick that. And again, I like the group two, they had a comment, they remove all the jargons. For these people, they don't, even if they could be people from Vector, but for now they don't care about their jargons. So you don't have to give them jargons. But the first part of the message was good. So I think now we have to go to a break, 5 minutes break, then you come back. Take over to you, Harriet.
Okay, guys, we'll go for a 5 minute break and then we'll be back to complete the second part of this workshop.
Was a comment.
Can we regard the general scientist as an expert? And it can
No,
you could be a social scientist.
yeah, so you Taiwo, so a general scientist typically has like the basic understanding of sort of like the science and how the science works, but may not be fully able to understand the niche that you're working in. So we may all be scientists here, but some people are working in malaria vectors, which means they understand mosquitoes and everything. And then, you know, someone else may be able to understand their findings, but may not be able to understand it, to appreciate the technical, much of the technical details of that niche. So it's more to remove the niche from remove the niche from your explanations, but also still maintain the science, or at least you can bring them up to speed to understand your concept, and then now you can tell them the findings. NMCP, yes, we can consider them as policymakers, but also most of them typically have a science background, so some of them might be able to appreciate some of the science behind what it is that you're doing. Yeah.
Hi, Nema again. I dropped off because of power. I'm not sure. Are we in breakout groups or?
The break.
We'll, oh no, 5 minute break.
Okay, thanks.
So you have bingo. Are you guys back? So this one, we know it's a very, 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 very high level introduction. So if you have lots of yeah, if you have questions, just bother us later. Because we know that the time is not enough, we're just giving the snack, but just a tip of the iceberg, the same problem. We are part of the problem of giving you tips of the iceberg. Yeah, going on. Okay? When I do presentation, I'm gonna cancel my time. It's not. Yes. So I have this slide, I don't have this slide deck later. And what I have here is one, again, I use my personal experiences. It's the work that we did maybe 15 years ago now, maybe 12. And it was a work that we tried to estimate hospital dates from in Tanzania in like a period of like 10 years from 2006 and 2015. And to look at what is actually the causes of those deaths that they occur in hospitals. So we developed a very big research report, like a technical report that went to the Ministry of Health and also went to the research institution that were asked to do this work, that was the National Institute for Medical Research in Tanzania. But also, we are put that 50, but also it went to the funder, but the funder was also interested to use this information for another a big grant that to look at the causes of deaths. That is the Global Fund. So we gave a report of like, I don't know how many pages, maybe 200 or something. But out of that, we were able to build, because that was a science work and analytics, and it went. Then from there, we were to do a lot of other publications which are very specific for specific topics. And I just pulled here like 9 of them that came from that report. You can see amount of products that went off that. And there are also other things for this presentation, which I cannot share here. But there's so much work that was done behind that to communicate now to different audiences and groups that are interested in some of the information from there. So I put this one on your as an example, and I put it in your folders, and you'll be able to access this. But it's just an example of the work you can do. One work, you finish a report, you don't go shopping. And then you keep on working on that, and you can have a lot of other scientific communication or writing out of one work. So when you're doing scientific writing, it's like you're playing Lego. And for those who they have played Lego, for those who have played Lego, you can see you have a lot of pieces and you're trying to build something out of these little pieces. So you have like some ideas, some takeaways, some tables, and some what you do next. Because when you're writing, you're putting a lot of information. Who was why you are doing that, and what can you do, the methods, the figures, what you had in the middle, the results, what are the final results, what did you learn. So there's so much that you put in writing. It's different from communication that you are very tailored. This one you can write much more. And here we have an example of a Lego that you are trying to build that beast. And you have maybe 500 pieces that to build that to become like a proper. You have a picture that you're moving around with it, and you're trying to put the pieces so that you can get to that machinery. I think it's a war thing. I'm not sure even what that is. So all those steps you start to put together is how the writing actually goes. And you have to pay attention that every piece goes into its own, it's the next piece that they are supposed to fit each other. Otherwise, you won't get to this shape. And this shape is your manuscript or is your paper that you have to publish at your end. So as you are writing, think of yourself like I'm building this picture. I like also the idea of having these pictures that you have the little pieces, let's say 500 of them. And after the end of that, you get a butterfly. So your mind has that butterfly of this Lego. And you are trying to put those pieces together so that picture comes nicely. So when you're writing, for example, a scientific article, 3 steps. The first one, you have to plan. It's the same as you're trying to cook. You need to plan in your head. I need this and this and this. The second step, you need to plan. The third step, you need to plan. And I think I'll be able to give another talk here about how you're writing grants. It's the same. there are steps that you just repeat. You just do that. Same for writing. Plan that. Even if it's going to have different introduction, section, method, result, discussion, but make your mind focus in that. You make a plan, then follow that. Don't. They say procrastination is a thing that scientists have. I'm gonna say that, I'm gonna do it next week. And you just blame yourself, but you don't do it. So plan and execute your plan. So I just put here a few things that you can actually look at. And as I've said, you're gonna have access to the slides. So I'll just touch a very high level, but at the end, go and go and look at this one. So when you start, you just have your title maybe or your work that is already, you have some results from a lot of Excel tables or maps. For those who are doing analytical, they have maps that are generated from their modeling. But in the terms of the writing, you just have an empty Word document and you are now to put that into a document. So it means you need to have that workflow that you are comfortable with. And you start so easy and nice that I'm going to start with my figures or my tables. Some people, they just forget about the structure of the paper is to have introduction, method, results, discussion, reference, but starting with something that makes you feel like, oh, I'm starting to build it now. So maybe sometimes people, they like to bring a figure first. Then they look at that figure and you start to write the story about that figure. And then later to build itself. Some people, they want to start with the methods, like how did I do it? Because they're very comfortable with that. Even if you divide yourself sometimes, you give someone who's very comfortable to write the method, for them to write just that, but they enjoy to write that method. Then that section, it means it will go to be connected later. Some people, they want you to discuss the so what, because they know the results in their heads and they know what they want the group, the people, the audience to get. So you can also start maybe in the discussion because you know the results, if you know what you want to say at the end. And then if you have the figures, some people they just use the figures to write their discussion. Some people, they want to start with like, why did I do that? That's an introduction. So make it easy for you, something that will make that I'm done with this, I had this problem and I know why I did this and what I'm gonna write it down. So start there where it make yourself much more comfortable. And then follow that sketch. At the end, you just make the complete paper. So when you set that foundation, let's say it's your methodology, maybe it's your tables, then you start to build now on that. And everybody here will have their different comfort zone. Go with your comfort so that it needs to all divide yourself, if you are 4 of you, to their comfort zones so that they are comfortably to write. Everybody will form their own foundation. Because somebody will know that they are not people who they want to write a lot about so what. Leave them, make them to prepare all the visuals. But they're happy to make the visuals. You can even sketch for them on a paper and they go, they build them because they're happy to do that. They'll do a wonderful job. Then you come, you put the pieces together. So here I have an article that I'd like you to go later and look at it. And you can see how different pieces of this has been built from like what was the general background, what was shown. Oh, I want to move my cursor. My cursor is kind of in some. Okay, I can't find it. Yeah, so you can see some specific background, like what was the knowledge gap. Oh, there it is.
It's my very
Knowledge gap, what was the result? So you can see this is just a small abstract, but you can see all the pieces were put together. And if you read this one, every statement you'll see later that I give some tips. Every statement had this perfect selection of words to give you what it wants. So it means if you have a bullet points that in this paragraph I want to build this, go to every of these steps, those little things, and connect them. So it's a very difficult maybe topic, but you later go and look at this one. Just read slowly as you're having a cup of tea and see how it was constructed. Because it's an art that you do around that. So a few tips. Because if you want your reader to read your work, you have to treat them. First is a flow. Your sentences. One sentence, one thought. And I'll try later, we can have some slides at the end that give like one sentence have like 5 thoughts. And you go look at those ones and laugh, which is good. We do that. Even myself, I do that mistake yet. Because sometimes you think, oh, this statement is too short. I want to put the end and however and as well. But if it's one sentence, one thought, it goes really very easy. And your readers will enjoy that. But also, the sentence has to be concise. Yeah, 2 lines. Some AI tools nowadays, they tell you this is too long and they'll try to slice it for you. That the thing is too long. Can you put a semicolon here? Because I think someone cannot forget. So we have a rule of thumb that I didn't put it here, that if you are reading a sentence and you have to breathe in the middle, that sentence is too long. If you have to read it like, then you continue, there is a problem with that sentence. So find your actual words, make sure that they are captured. But if you're writing paragraphs, try to, when you're writing them, try to make sure that each paragraph has its own mini intro. So, and when you are reading now from here, what I would advise you, because we are giving you an introduction, pick any paper that has been published in a big journal, already reviewed, and read those paragraphs. And you will see each paragraph, it is introduced before it goes to the message. And it's an art that you need to grasp. You introduce what you want to say to that paragraph, then you go to highlight the message. But also, at the end, make sure that everything is connected. If you have 5 paragraphs, and I think there are students here, they are writing thesis, they're writing papers, they're writing plans. If you have 5 paragraphs, make sure they connect to each other. So it's like here you are talking on something, and the next one, it has nothing to do with the previous one. Remember, I started by any writing, any communication has to build a story. And that connection to paragraphs is the story that you want to look at. But if you are able, paragraph, talk about one point. If you're talking about social demographic, stick there. Don't put social demographic, then climate, then policies and politics in the same paragraph. People, they will just get lost. So stay in one point, one focus. So when you go to the next, you bring another story, but they are all connected. And here we have a picture of a book that you can follow up later. But there is this problem about circumlocution. It's a thing. We think we know English, so we write too much. Use a lot of words. For example, I have an example. And then can you go to the casa because my casa can't go there. Yeah. Take the first one. Individual all sectors of the environment. Excuse me. You could just say almost everywhere. But someone will find that they write this and they're very happy. Yeah, take for example, the one in table 7.4. Come to the conclusion. This is just conclude. What do you have to say? Come to the conclusion. In view of the foregoing, you can just use the word so. Spell out in depth. Let's explain. So we find this difficult because we write like that, and you come to the end, the journal will say, or the abstract will say 250 words. Then you have to go back in like, oh my God, what did I do to myself? Then you have to find the right one. So in the next slide here, try to avoid this type of writing. I have a table that explains, give a lot of examples, and you can follow up with that book and give a lot of examples how we actually play around a lot of words to just explain one thing. Avoid that one. It's not the best one. Your readers will get tired of you. But also, I have a paper here, and this is one of the map work that was published in 2015. It's one of the most cited malaria paper we have so far. By yesterday, it had almost 4,000 citations. And this is a strong paper. It's utilized by so many malaria community members or groups, because it was talking about different malaria control interventions and how they contribute to the burden that we see. And it looked at like 15 years. So here I added for you guys different texts from this paper and how it of course the original, some of them had a lot of this circumlocution. But it is a big paper. You can imagine 4,000 citations in the last 10 years, but still it had a lot of things that you could see they are too much. So go and look at it and just enjoy some of the pieces that I picked from it. Look at the original and look at how it actually could be done maybe better. But you can imagine, 15 years, there was not even ChatGPT actively to make your sentences. So people will write a lot of things. For example, if you take this one, in light of substantial pesticides attributed to vector control measures, observed during a longitudinal assessment. One might already stood up. So, oh dear. So you can look at this one and just laugh. But scientists, we write like this. So trying to build a sense that you don't write too much, where you could write so easy and follow up on those examples. So, for example, I just put here an example. If it's about net. Net was among the biggest, the one that was much more impactful. And you can just write, do bed nets and anti-malarial medicine prevent a lot of malaria cases. So that's going to be a blog. Because people, they will love that one and they'll follow it up. And you can see a team did this, they did this, and they used this, and they found this. But depending on the audience, you change this tone of how you're writing. But anyway, go and look at those slides. So just to summarize, you also trick yourself. Not all the readers, treat yourself also. Some good practices. Know your message before you start. Make sure that what you have to write, you know it. And you write so easily because you know it. And if you are writing a manuscript, try to write at least every day. Even if it's one statement, write it continuously. So it become like every afternoon between 3 to 4, I'm going to sit and build this paragraph. One paragraph, you can write it for a week, it doesn't matter. But as long as you are building it. So, and keep your drafts do not trust yourself. Because you can say today, I don't like this one, and tomorrow you remember, oh, why did I delete that text? Keep all your draft. Make version 1.000, especially with the Google, you can keep your track, you can track your changes. And sometimes it's very funny. Write and read it to yourself. And if you realize like it sounds so bad, you know it's bad, go back to it. Don't put a blah blah. Every sentence has to end a place in your writing. But let your document full of I love this one. I write and I throw it there and I go. And next time I come back, I'm like, was that me? What did I even do? So make it full of, because you forget about your mind will forget about it. And come back and you realize that I need to revise. So, and trust your team. Even if I'm not a data science, I'm not a statistician, I'm not a, just give it to me. Even if I'm not in your field, I may pick something that maybe your reader tomorrow will pick it. So make sure that also give it to someone else that doesn't understand your language. If they understand, maybe there are community that will understand. Okay, so writing, communication, these are skills. What you build them is practice. And I think with that, we'd like to stop there and give back to Harriet for the last individual exercise. Thank you so much, guys. Over to you, Harriet.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. Hi, everyone, once again. I hope that was quite an interesting part of the session. I know I've learned a lot. So we are now going to try and put some of these, what we've learned into practice. So I've pasted a link in the chat where we'll access it and then try to format our research questions, the one we're working on. You can either put something that you're currently working on, perhaps actually working on, or something that you hope to work on. If you have none of that, you can also just format a question that you've been maybe thinking about. And then we'll now have a look at how now we are formatting the questions. So as the question reads 1 minute, we want to do the 1 sentence test, and we're just going to write our current research questions in 1 sentence, and the maximum is 25 words. So I hope to start seeing some of the interesting questions you're working on the chat. There's also a question as we're working on our responses in the chat. Annabelle is asking, yeah. How do you deal with similarity index for words that cannot be changed? Example, description of methodology for publicly available survey data. So Annabelle, maybe if you can come off mute and then try to maybe give more context to this.
Hi, I've noticed that some journals would look at maybe the similarity index, and this is what makes people use a lot of words to describe something just because they don't want it to be similar with other articles. So for example, maybe somebody is trying to describe a methodology of survey data. You cannot actually change it because the methodology is just a methodology. You took the methodology from their website, for example, or like this is circumstances you find, maybe you're writing prevention of mother to child transmission. Then when you upload it in maybe the tool that checks the similarity index, it tells you that this has been taken from another article. So what was I supposed to write?
Yeah, I think as they are writing their 1 sentence test there, and you need also to see yours, I can testify to that because we have the same issue because we're using data from demographic surveys that the entire methodology is clearly laid out and as you said, you can't change, but that's how they have done it. So you cannot like say, I'm gonna wed this to this way, because you may write it absolutely wrongly, different from what they have done. So what usually happens in those, I think, I don't know how the similarity index that you have done for some of your work. I think if you give how we do it, you give a reference. So you actually sometimes repopulate what was described in their main description of that survey, and you give a reference, because it's clear that it's a long 30 years survey, that the methodology is so clear. So sometimes I believe some of these checks about you have to characterize something. If it's something that is already referenced and is clearly cannot be changed, I think it's avoiding that. So we do that a lot. But and you find out sometimes we describe things, but they are not staying in the main manuscript. So some of those methods that we need to repeat for someone just to refresh, they'll go into the appendix. So they don't become part of your main document. Because your idea was like to make people to remember, because they cannot go and read the reports, but it's not become part of your key text like that. And that I think is kind of like somehow allowed. You can just say description of this methodology is now in the supplementary material. And I think that's why some journals for us, they allow us to give us a lot of supplementary materials, because there are a lot of methodology that we don't design those surveys. So I think it depends on where and how, but the referencing helps to what you have used, where you have used the information, but it's, as I say, it's not an easy thing. Sometimes you struggle to see how can I change that. And it's something more the use of supplementary material. That's my personal experience, Rajana. Someone else I also add.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do they have?
So we have 3 responses so far.
How has insecticide resistance evolution been modeled previously in mosquitoes? Wow. How can we go beyond model development to model explanations for policymakers? I love that one. Always gonna do that one. How does change in climate and land use affect mosquito and dynamics, abundance and seasonality? So they are all starting with how. Any question that does not start with how? Only 3 people. Why are the other ones? We expected like in how many? 9, right?
Yeah. Still refining
Oh,
the many criteria.
yeah.
Really,
Either research question or anything that you have found, the finding. Do you have any finding that you want to write it in 25 words?
yeah.
There are so many H's in the research question. There is a how, there is a what, there is a who, there is a where. Where is everything going into how? The five H's, the 5 W's.
Oh yeah, it's 5 W and 1 H.
And 1 H. So the how is actually the.
Is there complexity differences? Like which one is more easy or hard to do?
It depends. I think the what is the more easy. Easy, because can do descriptive. What is it? Who is actually easy.
Where is
it? Where.
So actually how maybe is much more complex.
Yeah, but it is a lot of fun. Sometimes it is a repetitive as well. Because you're putting a reasoning behind.
Yeah.
I think the what is much easier. Just say
Okay,
rain,
fine.
temperature. Can entomological data be used to model malaria vector distribution? That sounds like a very good title for a poster. or a talk, or it's catchy. It's very catchy. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. None have gone even over 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Hindu to go through.
So we have almost 1 minute to go.
Yeah, please.
Can you please just
Write even a finding. 1 sentiment. I think I need to make a trip with you guys to go to see the political people. Go to the parliament and then you just catch anyone and you explain something that you are doing to them.
maybe they can explain how essential oils.
So this one, can essential oils from indigenous plants effectively control insecticide resistance and Anopheles gelbli as environmentally, my breathing in the middle. Is that really not in there? You have to define words. Can essential oils from indigenous plants effectively control insecticide resistance and Anopheles gelbli as environmentally friendly herbicide and repellents? Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that mistake.
Yeah, weather conditions contributed to malaria escalation in Africa. Yeah, that's really beautiful. But it's a finding. Yeah, I love the essential as well. It's a bit heavy, but it's structured well. In essential oils from indigenous plants effectively control insecticide resistance. Yeah, that's good. What strategies can Tanzania use to introduce high-cost newborn health commodities with limited global supply into the public health systems? Wow, that looks like a good research objective.
Yeah.
Mass distribution of NNI shapes malaria vector distribution over time in Nigeria.
That's a result.
That's a result. Yeah.
So, nice.
Yeah. Are you keeping those?
I want to.
You can keep them.
I can actually keep them.
Yeah, then you put them in the slide. So then later we're gonna chase these guys and ask them who did this one. For those who they haven't sent questions, we're gonna follow up.
Yeah.
You need to do that so they can get all of them.
Yeah.
But that was a lovely time. Thanks so much to chat with you guys. If any other questions, just knock at our chats or emails or anything, and we'll see how we build these skills more and further. I think we are done with the session memo.
Except for one announcement on the
Yeah, from
independent
us.
for you guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
That was beautiful and short. I struggled because I wanted to talk to you much more than just the 2 hours.
2 hours is a restriction. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Susan and Harriet. I think we can all appreciate the effort that went into condensing this big, complex topic into something that is actionable. And I hope that every one of you guys have been able to take away some things. And I think just given the interest, because it feels like we've only scratched the surface of science communication, we will think of ways of having some additional ad hoc sessions that could be optional for people to join. So yeah, more information will come on that. But yeah, thank you so much for this. So I have one announcement. Let me just quickly share my screen.
And many emails.
Can you all see my screen? Okay. Yeah, so in the last workshop, we briefly touched on the independent projects. Have you guys had a chance to think about what you may want to work on? From the last exercise, there seems to be a lot of interest in things that people are working in the group. So yeah, anyone would like to share ideas they came up with on what they would want to work on?
Hi, Nema. I think I already drafted ideas, but I shared them with my mentor and he has not replied. So I don't think I would like to share them yet because I don't have a solid idea. I just had several, like I had 3. So maybe next week I would have an answer.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we're glad that you guys are already thinking about that. And for those who haven't already started thinking about project ideas, we will have an assignment that hopefully when you work through that, you'll come up with a bit more of a concrete idea of what you may want to take on. So now that you have the basics of science communication, we want you to develop a concept note for your project idea. And I've shared here on the slides a few example of project ideas that you can work on. So again, as you've expressed, it could be a research question that you want to explore further and turn your project into a research project, or you may want to do a data communication campaign. So we are open to the different ideas that you guys are gonna come up with. And the requirement that we have for the project is that it should give you an opportunity to apply the different skills that you have learned throughout. So it should have components of communication, data analysis, and data visualizations. And we also in real world research and data projects, you work with other collaborators. So we would also want you guys to work in teams to build and develop communication and collaboration. So as a next immediate step, we will ask you to form teams, and the teams can comprise of 2 to 3 members. And I would ask you to share that information by Wednesday. And if someone is not part of a team by Wednesday, then we will assign you to a team. And once you have a team formed, you can start working on the concept notes. And for this one, we are going to add different skills. So the concept note will build on what you just talked about, but you are going to publish that on Quarto, which you covered 2 weeks ago. So also just be a nice opportunity for you to put into practice those skills. And the deadline for this concept note will be July 15th. So you'll have a bit more than 2 weeks, which we hope will be enough time for you guys to work on that. Yeah, so just pause there to see if there are questions or reactions.
Oh, I want the question from Mentor.
Because I closed before God, and then it came
Oh,
just take it there.
Send it.
So we're all clear on the assignment that you'll be working on. Okay, if there's no question, then I'm assuming that we are all clear. So just maybe to also talk a bit about the experience from last cohort. I was part of a team that worked on a climate and health project, and we were mapping flood hazard exposure for health facilities in Tanzania. Harriet, also maybe perhaps you can briefly talk about what you worked on. Harriet was also in the cohort last year.
Yeah, our project was about mapping geographic accessibility to primary healthcare facilities in Tanzania. And just to also say that regardless of maybe what skills and maybe data that you think you have, it's also important to bring it out so that you can also receive also support in terms of either availability of data or availability of those, what kind of sort of assessment that you're going to be doing, because we took this project, but we did not have a lot of the know-how or what kind of maybe data that we're going to use, and we're able to sort of collate all that through different people who were part of maybe the mentors and trainers of this program. So even if maybe you're having doubts about availability of data, just please flag it so that you can see if that data is available or the methodology can be sort of like accessed, and then perhaps you can be able to do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Harriet. So yeah, as we have mentioned, you have access to all of these resources, the mentors, your facilitators, some of your team members as well. So the earlier you start working on your project ideas, the more support that you can get, the more robust you can also build your project into. And both of the projects that we just shared are currently being developed into manuscripts, which goes on to show the potential that these independent projects may have in contributing to your career growth as well. So I hope you will all be bold and ambitious, but also just make sure that you're working on something that you're passionate about. Yeah, and at the end of this program, we'll have a symposium where you will then get to present your findings to a wider audience. So yeah, I hope this is an exciting opportunity and adventure for you guys to embark on. And please, yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Make the most of your mentors in helping you to think through. Yeah. I will share additional information about this concept note assignment over email. But if you have any other questions, you can also just bring those up in the WhatsApp group. With that,
Can I?
Oh, yes.
Something? So I was already, I left, but then I came back. I thought I should also listen to this project announcement. Was last year, the last cohort, the projects, we had 3 groups, and they did a very beautiful project. And during the last day, we were kind of presenting that one. And we also, the groups did, they divide themselves in such a way that they didn't just present the work, they also demonstrated how they did it. And so it was like a walkthrough kind of a day. And the people that were invited, they are very, very excited. So, and they are like, this is wonderful, because you could see everybody how they process their data, and there was a computer to do demos, and how you're building your scripts and everything. You could see in the publication, you have name out, they have screens open, actively running. So, and there was a request actually from the director, like next time we should not just invite few people, make it a little bit, invite more researchers and people from different institutions. So, maybe you're gonna do it in Nigeria, we're gonna do it here, we don't know. But we do this in person. It's gonna be anywhere, we don't know now, we're gonna decide as we go. So, but it's an active day, and you have like 3 hours to talk about your project. So it means think of that with that passion, that I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna build every step when I'm gonna show off. So the teams will actually really present it to like showing off that we have done this work ourselves. So go with that energy. We have like, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be from now until you have the final, maybe it's like 3 months maybe. But it's a very fast thing. By that time, you should have something that you can actually throw in a session, and you can demonstrate everything. So choose your friends wisely also, people that you are happy to work with. I just want to say that there was so much interest in the last cohort. I know this year they are actually looking forward for this you participants to go and demonstrate what you have done, not just putting a talk there. So go for it, because it's there, that's where we're exposing you to the world. And this year, maybe we're going to invite you other partners and ministries and the member of the parliament, the policymakers to come and listen to you. So anyway, thanks so much, Leon.
Yeah, thank you so much for that addition. I hope you're even more excited now after hearing that. Yeah, so please be on a lookout for an email from me. Yeah, other than that, complete the post-workshop survey that will be sent shortly after this session. But yeah, thank you so much again, Dr. Susan and Harriet, and thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right now? Yeah, I'm talking now. Sorry.